Hello, hello. Happy Thursday. Welcome to our stream. This time we are taking a look at Lesson 5, Conversation 4. So you're at your friend's house and your friend is in the other room cooking some food. And you're in the living room, relaxing. And you see some snacks. Ooh, those look pretty good. You almost finish the bag. And then your friend comes over and goes, ooh, ugh, those are treats for our cat. Ooh. And so, what do you say? Well, this time you're feeling silly and you say, I know, that's why I ate them. Meow. Ooh. So, you're being a little bit funny and you decide to do a cat thing today. And so, because you're doing a cat thing, you're being silly, acting like a cat, you decide to go to Hotong Cat Village. Now, Hotong Cat Village is a place that is pretty close to Taipei. You can take the train up to Ruifang, and it's pretty close to there. And have you ever been up there? I personally don't love cats as much as some of you do, so Hotong is a little bit too much for me. Cats can be cute, but I don't want hundreds of cats jumping on me. I don't need to be the king of the cats. What about you? Do you think you would enjoy being the king or the queen of the cats? Ooh, cover yourself in fur and walk around and eat some tuna. Okay. So, we had our little adventure in Hotong. Hopefully, if you've never been there, you can take a trip and check it out. It's pretty cool. And if not, there are lots of blogs about it. One of my good friends wrote a really cool blog about the Hotong Cat Village. And if you're interested in practicing your English and try reading about some places in Taiwan, I can share with you his blog. It's really well written. And so, this time we are looking at our dialogue about Hotong Cat Village and learning a few things through that dialogue, right? And a lot of these things are about cause and effect. And so we learn many different words and the different ways to use them. And so we learn things like since and as and now that and because of and due to the fact that, and then so, and then what else? Consequently, thus, hence. There are many, 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 many words in English that show a cause and effect relationship. And if you just use the word because, most of the time that'll be okay. You can just use the word because. But that's not why we're here. We're not just going for the simple, easy way out. We want to make your English better, make your speech you. You don't want to just be a boring person who always says the same thing, right? So you need more tools. Maybe after these lessons, you'll stick to using because, since, as, and these words. But it is still really good to know the rest. Learning consequently, due to, and all of these, you will see them and hear them out in the world. So they're all really good and important to know. Okay? So it's up to you when you're speaking. Start with just because, and slowly, as you get more comfortable, add more words. Add since, add so, add as, and then add therefore, stuff like that. All of these words are really useful. They're tools that you can use to express yourself. Okay, so let's get into our homework and just get into it. Lesson 5, Conversation 4, Section 2. Okay? And this one was focused on mostly since and as and now that, mostly. Okay? Because and since and as are all very similar, but since and as will put a focus on the effect, the result of something. Okay? And so they're very useful words, daily use English phrases. Okay? So let's get started with our first sentence. 既然你这么爱喝真奶，你为什么不开饮料店? So That's a good question. You love it, so do this. So in English, I would write this as, since you love bubble tea so much, why don't you open a drink shop? Okay? So here you can use since or you could use as. But in spoken English, in American English, we often use since. So since you love bubble tea so much, why don't you open a drink shop? And bubble tea can be written many different ways. You could say bubble tea, you could say boba, you could say bubble milk tea, you could say pearl milk tea. All of these are okay. Now be careful, right? Boba tea. Boba or boba tea. I saw someone write babo, B-A-B-O. It sounds like bubble, but we don't write babo. We wrote boba. Boba comes from the Chinese, boba. Boba in English is boba, okay? So, since you love bubble tea so much. And this part you could say many different ways. You could say, since you like to drink bubble tea so much, or since you're such a big fan of bubble tea. You could say many different ways, okay? I chose love because it's so strong. I want to emphasize that you love bubble tea. Since you love bubble tea so much, why don't you open a drink shop, okay? I also saw, since you're a bubble tea lover. The grammar is okay, but it's not a common way to say it. It would be more common to say, since you love something, instead of a something lover. A something lover, like a bubble tea lover, it's not wrong. Sometimes people will say it, but it's less common. It's more common to say, since you love something, okay? And then the second part, why don't you open a drink shop? Now, for a shop or a store or a place like that, you use the verb open. So open a drink shop. So to open, it means to start that business. So if you open a shop or you start a business, but you don't mix the two. You don't say start a shop. You would say open a shop, okay? So start a business, open a shop. But we do not say start a shop, okay? And also, we wouldn't say create a shop. Create is usually used for a thing you make, like I create a new kind of bicycle. It's kind of like invent. But for a shop, you don't create a shop. It's not a brand new idea. You just open a shop, okay? So, since you love bubble tea so much, why don't you open a drink shop? Okay? Our second sentence is 我现在可以出门了，因为太阳下山了. Oh, maybe you're afraid of getting too much sun. Oh, it's too hot outside. I don't want to burn. And so you can say, I can leave the house now that the sun has set. Okay? I can leave the house now that the sun has set. Okay? So we have our first idea. I can leave the house, in meaning I can go outside. Now that, and this is telling you why you're saying this, now that the sun has set. This is the reason why it's okay now. And I use the word now that because that shows something changed, right? I was waiting, tuk, 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 and the sun set, and then whew, I can leave the house now that the sun has set, okay? Another way to say this would be, I can go out now that the sun has set. So the same idea, you can go out or I can leave the house. And so the second part, I say, the sun has set. This is the present perfect tense. I use this tense, the present perfect, the sun has set, because it just happened. It's in the past, but it's recently. And so it's in the near past, and I'm telling you something that's new that happened. So the sun has set. There's a connection between what happened before and now, okay? So the present perfect tense, I know, is still really tricky for a lot of students, but the way you can think of it is something happened in the past, but it's important now, or maybe it's new news that you're telling someone, okay? So, for this, I use the phrase, now that. I can leave the house now that the sun has set. You could also use one of our other words. You could say, since the sun has set, or as the sun has set. All three of them are fine. I use now that because it's focusing on the fact that something new happened, something changed, okay? And the second part, like I said before, I said the sun has set, meaning it already set. The sun went down, and now it's dark enough for me to go out, okay? A lot of students use the sun is setting. And so that would mean it's still going down. The sun is setting, but it's not totally gone. You could definitely say that in your sentence, but it changes the meaning a little bit. For my sentence, the sun has set. That means the sun already went down. But the sun is setting means it's going down. Maybe the sun is like this, okay? And so that would be the sun is setting. But if you use the present tense, a few people said the sun goes down or the sun sets, okay? Those are the present simple tense. Using present simple tense is for a routine, something that happens again and again. So if you say the sun goes down, that means every day. Or the sun sets, that means every day. If we're talking about right now, you'd say the sun is setting. Or if it already happens, you would say the sun has set, okay? And then you could use the past tense, the sun set. That would mean it finished. Maybe it was a little while ago, okay? Keep on moving. Our third sentence, 我觉得他不爱我了，因为他最近对我很冷淡. Oh my gosh. Oh, so cold. So, you could say this a couple different ways. I would say this as, I don't think he loves me since he's been cold to me recently. Oh my gosh. So here, since is very similar to because, but when we use the word since, it means that the first part is a little bit more important. If we use because, they're both kind of equally important. But I don't think he loves me is the most important part. And then the explanation is a little bit less important since he's been cold to me recently. So, someone has been cold to you. Here, using the present perfect tense because it started in the past and it continued till now. So that's another way to use the present perfect. You wouldn't use past tense. That would mean it's over, right? We use present perfect, meaning it started back then and it still continued. So he has been cold to me recently. Okay? The second way I would write, I don't think he loves me because he's been giving me the cold shoulder recently. Now, the cold shoulder is a phrase meaning that someone gives you the cold shoulder. You can imagine that if you're talking to someone face to face, it's very warm and loving and friendly, right? But if someone turns their shoulder to you, they turn away from you. And it feels very cold and not very nice. So we call it the cold shoulder. They turn away from you. You only see their shoulder, not their face. So it's called giving someone the cold shoulder. I don't think he loves me because he's been giving me the cold shoulder recently. Oh, so heartbroken. Okay, so the first part, I don't think he loves me. So if we have a negative sentence like this, you should put the negative at the front with don't. I don't think he loves me. I saw a few students write, I think he doesn't love me. That's okay. The sentence is not wrong, but if you move the words around a little bit, it's a little bit easier to say. I think he doesn't love me is a little bit harder to say than I don't think he loves me. It's more smooth. It's more comfortable and natural to start with don't. I don't think he loves me. Okay? Since, that's the reason why. You could use the word as if you want, or the word because. That would be okay. Since he's been cold to me recently. Okay? He has been cold, or he has been giving me the cold shoulder. Okay? So we want to use present perfect tense to mean that it started back then and continued forward till now. Okay? You could use present tense. He is cold to me. I don't think he loves me because he is cold to me, or he's cold to me. That would mean in general he's always cold, but it doesn't really mean the recently part. Okay? So if you use is, that just means in general. And you wouldn't use that with recently most of the time. Recently usually use the present perfect tense. You could also use the past perfect, you could also use the past tense with the word recently. You could say, he was cold to me recently. But that would mean it happened one time and it finished. But if you're talking about it happening again and again, it's better to use, he has been cold to me recently. Okay? So when we're talking about feelings between people, it's pretty common to use warm and cold. So warm means friendly, cold means not friendly. A lot of students use the word indifferent. He has been indifferent to me. Now, this is correct. The word indifferent can mean that he doesn't care about you. But often, usually we use the word indifferent to describe that you don't care about something, not for a person. When we're talking about feelings between people, it's more common to use he's been cold to me. Indifferent is usually about a choice. Maybe it's like, oh, would you like to eat an apple or an orange? It's like, oh, I am indifferent. That means you don't really care about the choice, okay? You don't really care which thing you get, okay? So indifferent is more often used for things, okay? Indifferent with a T is an adjective. Indifference, which I also saw, is a noun. So somebody said he has indifference for me. That's getting too formal, too complicated. In normal day-to-day life, we don't use the word indifference very often. Indifferent is kind of common, but more common you just use cold, okay? And our fourth sentence is 因为便当太好吃了，我决定再吃一个。Yum, yum, yum. Okay? So, I would say this as, since the bento was so good, I decided to buy another one. Ooh, yum, yum, yum. You could also say, because the lunchbox was so good, I decided to get another. Ooh. Okay? So, this idea of a 便当 is not really common in America. We don't really buy lunch in this way. You don't buy a box of lunch very often. So there's not a perfect way to say this in America that somebody would understand right away. You might have to explain what you mean. The correct translation of 便当 into English is bento. And bento is a word from Japanese. So the bento was so good. And so people in America, if they understand Asian culture, they might know what a bento is, but then some Americans might not know what bento means. Okay? So you could also call it a lunchbox. So since the lunchbox was so good, okay? Or boxed lunch, that would be okay too. But a lunchbox or a boxed lunch, usually in America, that means you made the lunch and just put it in a box. Like when you were in elementary school, for little kids, the mom or dad will help make their lunch and then put it in a box for the kid to take to school. So when we hear lunchbox or boxed lunch, it sounds like you made it. So both of these words, bento, lunchbox, or boxed lunch, you could say that, and that would be the right way to translate it. But if you're speaking to an American who doesn't know much about Taiwan or Asian culture, you might need to explain what that thing is. And that's pretty common, right? And so it's okay. So bento, lunchbox, boxed lunch. Boxed meal is okay, but I would say boxed lunch before boxed meal, okay? So since the bento was so good, I decided to buy another one. Now, I use past tense. I said was because I'm imagining this situation. It already happened. You finished your lunch. And so it's in the past tense. Wow, I finished my lunch. That was so good. And so what do I do next? I decided to buy another one. That's the result, right? And you could write this in the present tense, right? Since the bento is so good, I decided to buy another one. That would mean you're still eating the bento, like you're not finished with it. The bento is so good. While you're eating it, you ordered another one, okay? So was means you finished it, is means you're eating it right now, okay? And then the second part, I decided to buy another one. Now, you could say, I decided to get another one. I decided to have another one. Buy and get means you have to buy it or order it, right? I decided to have another one. It sounds more like you already have it and you're just going to eat it, okay? So if we need to order one, you might say buy, get, or order, okay? And then some people wrote, I decided to eat another one. Here, like I've said before, if you say eat by itself, if you say I want to eat a bento, it sounds like you take the box and eat it. You don't want to eat the box. So we'd say have a bento, okay? And then, like I said before, you could use since or as for this sentence. Since the bento was so good, or as the bento was so good. But in American English, since is a little bit more common than as, because as has many, many different meanings. It can get a little bit confusing, so people stick to the word since, okay? Okay, let's keep on going. Our next section is Lesson 5, Conversation 4, Part 3. And Part 3 is about the word because of, due to, and due to the fact that, right? So some other ways to show the reason, okay? The reason behind something. And here, we're usually marking a thing. Well, if we use because of or due to, we follow it with a noun or a noun phrase, okay? Or maybe a verb plus ing, which is a gerund, which acts like a noun, okay? So our first sentence is, 因为他的粗心大意，公司赔了200万元. Oh my gosh, what a big mistake. So in English, I would say, because of his carelessness, his company lost $2 million. Oh my gosh. You could also change because of to due to, and then change carelessness to careless mistake. Due to his careless mistake, his company lost $2 million. Holy moly, that's a lot of money. Well, in Taiwan, $2 million is a lot of money. In America, $2 million is even more. Holy moly, too much, right? So be careful with that money. Don't make big mistakes, okay? So we can use because of or due to. And these words are followed by a noun or noun phrase. So after these words, I use carelessness. So careless is an adjective. He was careless. But if you want to use it as a noun, you could say his carelessness. You add ness to make it into a noun. The way he was behaving, his carelessness. Or if you want to talk about what he did, you could say his careless mistake. Okay? That one action. Okay? You can leave out the word careless too. You could say due to his mistake. Okay? All of these are okay. Carelessness, careless mistake, mistake. But if you want to use this idea of careless, you need to make sure you turn it into a noun by saying carelessness, or use careless to describe a noun, careless mistake, okay? A few people said because of his careless. That doesn't work. Careless is an adjective, so you need to make it carelessness, okay? And the second part, his company lost $2 million. Now, notice I wrote it with a dollar sign and then 2 million. So some people will make the mistake and see the dollar sign, but they don't see the word dollars. So they say, his company lost 2 million. 2 million what? Even if I don't write the word dollars, you still have to say it. If you see that sign, you say the number, and then after it, you say the word dollars. So you see the dollar sign, then 2 million. So you say $2 million. It's a little bit tricky, right? The dollar sign is in front. Why do I have to say it at the end? But English is weird sometimes, okay? So his company lost $2 million, okay? So I wrote it in past tense. They lost $2 million. You could also use the present perfect. His company has lost $2 million. If you use present perfect, it sounds like it just happened recently because maybe it's new news. Or it could mean that it's continuing. Maybe they might lose more. Oh my gosh. So if you use past tense like I did, they lost 2 million. That's it. It happened. It's finished. But if you say the company has lost $2 million, maybe it'll keep going. Maybe they'll lose more next week. Uh-oh. So that's the difference between the present perfect and past. The meaning is slightly different. Okay. And so remember, lost or has lost is the verb. If you use the word losses, losses is a noun. So if you want to use the word losses, you would have to change your sentence. Like his company's losses were $2 million, okay? And then the word compensate. I saw some people use the word compensate. His company compensated $2 million or something like that. Compensate usually means you give money to someone to say sorry. And usually we have compensate something or compensate someone. Usually you give it to someone. So here, compensate doesn't fit perfectly unless you change the sentence. Compensate would mean the company had to give money to someone, not just that they lost money. Okay, let's keep on going. The next one is pretty tricky just because of the Chinese going to English. We have to change it around quite a bit just because of kind of the way we think in English sometimes can be a little bit different. And if you miss this, it's okay. This one was hard. So the next sentence is 因为环保，我们现在不提供塑胶袋. So this is pretty common, and this happens in a lot of stores now, right? And so in English, I would say, because of their environmental impact, we no longer provide plastic bags. So this sounds very formal, right? And then to get a little bit closer to the Chinese, I changed to in order to. In order to protect the environment, we don't offer plastic bags now. Okay. Now, the first thing I wrote, because of their environmental impact. So in Chinese, it says 因为环保, which you would think should be because of environmental protection, right? And most of you wrote that. Because of environmental protection or due to environmental protection. But in English, we don't think of that as a cause. That's more of the goal, or that's the way we think of it in English. That's what we want to do. It's not the cause of something. Okay? So, the cause of stopping the plastic bags is because the plastic bags are bad. So, because of their environmental impact, there being the plastic bags. The plastic bags impact the environment. They affect the environment. They change the environment. They're bad, right? Because of their environmental impact, we no longer provide plastic bags. Now, this is a tricky sentence, right? So the way that plastic bags hurt the environment, that's the reason why we no longer provide plastic bags. Okay? So this is kind of tricky. We have to change the logic in English because in English, usually when we're talking about the environment, the cause is the bad thing that happens, the environmental impact. And then when we're talking about environmental protection, that's the goal. So that's why I wrote it the second way, because protect the environment is what we want to do. So you could say, in order to protect the environment, we don't offer plastic bags now. So in order to shows what the goal is, what we're trying to do. Okay? So for this kind of environment thing, we think of the reason as the bad thing, and the goal, what we want to do, is the environmental protection. Okay? So I understand that one was pretty tricky. Then the second part was not so hard. You could say we don't provide plastic bags now, or we don't offer plastic bags now. That's a more direct way to say it, and more spoken English, people would say that. We don't offer plastic bags now. But in a more formal way of saying it, you could say we no longer provide plastic bags. No longer is kind of the same as not anymore or not now. So we no longer provide plastic bags. This is what you might see on a sign. It's a lot more formal. Okay? Next up is 由于天气恶劣，全部班机停止飞行. Sorry. So this is what might happen in the winter if it's really snowy and really cold, or if there's a typhoon coming, right? Hopefully not. And so you might say, or the airline might say, or people at the airport, they might say, due to severe weather, all flights have been canceled. Oh my gosh. Another way to say this would be, due to inclement weather, all flights have been canceled. Now, if you hear an announcement at an airport, they're not usually going to use the word because or because of, because that's more casual English. To use a bit more formal, they would use the word due to. So due to severe weather or due to inclement weather. You could also say due to bad weather, but it doesn't really match. Due to is a little bit formal. Bad weather is very casual English. In an announcement at the airport, they wouldn't say bad weather. They might say severe weather. Severe weather means it's serious and it's bad. They would probably use the word inclement. Inclement is not a very common word, but in formal English, this is what the news and announcements will use to talk about very bad weather. Inclement means the weather is too crazy, it's terrible. So due to inclement weather, all flights have been canceled. And here I use present perfect tense because they have been canceled. It happened in the past, but it's news. I'm telling you something new. And so that's why we use present perfect. And also it happened in the past and it's important now. That's another reason why we use present perfect tense. Okay? So you could say all flights were canceled, but if it's an announcement, they're telling you news, so they would use present perfect tense. All flights have been canceled. Oh, geez. So maybe you get stuck in the airport for 2 days. I hope not. Okay. So usually, to keep it formal, we'd say all flights have been canceled. You could say something like planes have stopped flying, but that's too casual English. It wouldn't be an announcement. So all flights is our subject here. That would be the best way to say it. Okay? And we use the word canceled. For flights, we wouldn't say shut down. Shut down is usually if you shut down a place. But the flights, they're on a schedule, so we say they're canceled. Okay? Next up. 他记忆力变差是因为他睡眠不足. Oh, yeah. Maybe this is your friend who's always tired. Making mistakes at work. So you might say, his memory is getting worse due to the fact that he hasn't been sleeping enough. So, here you could use the word because if you want to, but due to the fact that is useful too, right? His memory is getting worse. So, continuing to get worse. His memory is getting worse. Why? Due to the fact that, and then we follow it with a whole subject verb phrase, he hasn't been sleeping enough. So, first part, his memory is getting worse. I use the present perfect tense. I use the present continuous tense. Sometimes it's easy to get these mixed up. The present continuous tense means it keeps on going. His memory is getting worse slowly, and it's continuing forward. It's not finished yet. You could also use the present perfect tense. His memory has been getting worse, meaning it started back then and then it's continuing. Oh, it's not good. But some people use past tense in their sentences. His memory got worse. That means it got worse and then it finished. But usually this kind of thing continues happening. And so we want to use a continuous. Is getting worse or has been getting worse. Okay? And then why? Due to the fact that he hasn't been sleeping enough. And then some of you drop the word that. And that's okay sometimes. Due to the fact he hasn't been sleeping enough. But usually we should keep that. Sometimes people will drop it, but for the best grammar, keep the word that. Okay? And then due to the fact that he hasn't been sleeping enough. You could also say he hasn't been getting enough sleep. Okay? Both of these are the present perfect continuous, meaning started in the past and continued forward till now. Recently, he hasn't been sleeping. So started back then, continued till now. It's not just a one-time thing. So I saw a few people say he didn't get much sleep. That would mean one time, maybe last night. But if it continues happening, you should use hasn't been getting enough sleep. I also saw because of a lack of sleep. That would be okay. His memory is getting worse because of a lack of sleep. So because of a lack of sleep. So using because of followed by the noun, the idea, a lack of sleep. Okay? But remember, lack of sleep is a thing, so you have to say because of a lack of sleep. I saw a few people say because he lack of sleep. That wouldn't work. Or because he lacks sleep. We don't usually say it that way. Lacks, if we use lack as a verb, it usually means he doesn't have something. And we don't really use sleep in that way. I also saw the words sleep deprivation. That's a formal way of saying that he didn't get enough sleep or hasn't gotten enough sleep. He has sleep deprivation. So sleep deprivation is a noun, so you'd use the verb has. He has sleep deprivation. But that sounds like something that a doctor might say. It's very formal. Okay? You could also say he is sleep deprived with an ed. That's an adjective. You could say that, but daily conversation, we'd probably say he hasn't been sleeping enough. Okay? Now move on to lesson 5, conversation 4, part for. Here, we're still talking about cause and effect, and we're looking at using the word so. Okay? So, there we go. So. I use the word so too often. A lot of people use the word so as a connector between their ideas. So there I go again. You'll hear the word so all the time in spoken English, and you probably hear me say so a million times every minute. Oops, sorry. But we use it to start an idea and to connect ideas too. So here we go. Our first sentence is 火是在晚上看不到，所以你最好天黑后再行动. So I wrote this in a few different ways. And this is a common idea in zombie TV shows, zombie movies. So there are a few different ways to say it. The first way I wrote it is the most simple way. So zombies can't see at night. So you'd better go after sunset. So zombies can't see at night. So you'd better go after sunset. You could also say, so you better move after sunset. Okay? Now, a similar idea, but changing it a little bit around, you're waiting for something. Zombies can't see at night, so you better not go until it's dark out. So until here, we're waiting for the dark. You'd better not go until it's dark out. And then I also wrote it as, this is what you might hear in a movie. Zombies can't see at night, so you'd better wait till sundown before you hit the road. So a little bit more of using some phrases that you might not hear very often, or maybe you haven't learned before, but people would probably say in a movie, you'd better wait till sundown before you hit the road. Sounds like a movie star would say that. Okay? So the first part, the same in each one. Zombies can't see at night. They don't have the ability to. They can't. Oh, where are you? So I also saw someone translate it a different way. In Chinese, it's not exactly clear what this first part means. So I wrote it as zombies can't see at night. They can't see at night. But somebody also wrote, we won't see zombies at night. Maybe the zombies are sleeping or they're hiding. So you could think of it both ways. It depends what the meaning is. Zombies can't see at night. Maybe their eyes don't work. Or we won't see zombies at night. Maybe the zombies go away at night. So it could be different depending on what the movie is or what the story is. Okay? And remember, we say at night, not in night. Okay? For timing, it's pretty tricky. We say in the morning, but then we say at night. We say in the afternoon, we say at night. Who knows? English is annoying sometimes. You just gotta remember those patterns. It's always at night. Okay? And so, then we have our suggestion. You'd better. So use you'd better to give a suggestion where there might be a consequence. If you don't do it, there might be something bad that happens. If you go out in the daytime, ooh, you're in trouble. But so you'd better not leave until nighttime. Okay? And so a few different ways to say wait until the sky gets dark. So you'd better go after sunset. I'm telling you what to do after the sun goes down, right? After sunset, do this. Okay? And then if I use until, I'm saying what you should not do. You'd better not go out until it's dark out. So if you're using until, I'm telling you, don't do this now until it's dark out. And then when it gets to being dark out, then go out. Okay? And then you'd better wait till sundown before you hit the road. Hit the road means to go, start moving. A lot of zombie movies, they're going to travel somewhere to try to find food, find water, find gasoline for their car. So they want to hit the road. hit the road means head out, get going, okay? So a few different ways, and that's kind of a fun sentence, right? You can imagine the situation. An old scary man with a big beard saying, zombies can't see at night, so you better wait till sundown before you hit the road. He's seen some stuff, right? Oh, geez. Okay, next sentence. 我很怕麻烦，所以我宁可单身。Oh, I don't really like being bothered. So I don't like to be bothered, or I don't like to be annoyed. So I'd rather stay single. Whew, this is kind of a negative way to think. Maybe the person with you will make you happy. So someone who imagines that being married or having a boyfriend or girlfriend is annoying, maybe they think, oh, having someone talk to me all the time is too annoying. Oh, geez, maybe they'd say that. So I don't like to be bothered. I don't like to be annoyed. In Chinese, it's afraid, right? But in English, we don't think of this idea as being afraid of something. So a few people wrote, I'm afraid of annoyance, or I'm afraid of annoying. We don't use afraid like that. If you use the word afraid in English, it actually means you're afraid of something. Like, oh, it scares you. It makes you worried, okay? It's not that it bothers you or you don't like it. So it's better to just say, I don't like. I don't like to be bothered. I don't like to be annoyed. I also saw, I don't like troubles. We don't use the word trouble with an S like this very often. You could say, I don't like trouble, but trouble by itself sounds like a fight or maybe trouble with the law, maybe the police. So I don't like trouble means like you don't want to get in a fight. So here, we're talking about relationships, so using trouble isn't the best choice unless you think you would fight your boyfriend or girlfriend. I hope not. So usually we'd say to be bothered or to be annoyed because I'm imagining that the person is worried that their boyfriend or girlfriend will keep going blah, 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 do this, do that, okay? And so I'd rather stay single. So here we use so as our connecting word. So this, and then the reason, and then the effect is I'd rather stay single. And so we could use the word so. You could also use the word therefore. I also saw someone use the word thus, but like I said in our lesson, the word thus is a very formal word. So I would say, remember thus, keep it as a tool in your memory, but don't use the word thus in day-to-day life. It's not very common. It sounds a little bit old-fashioned, okay? It's a good thing to know, but I wouldn't use it every day, okay? Unless you're trying to sound really smart, okay? Next, 这是很重要的决定，因此我们要仔细考虑。Blah, sorry. So, this is a big decision. Therefore, we need to think carefully. Could also say, this is a big decision. Therefore, we need to think it out. Okay. So, this is a big decision. So this, whatever we're talking about, is a big decision. So decision being a noun, this thing, this idea, this is a big decision. Now, remember that if it's a noun, it's decision. The word decide is a verb. So we cannot say decide, cannot say the decide, okay? It would be the decision or a decision, okay? And then connecting words, I would use the word therefore. Therefore, perfectly fine. You could also use so if you want to make it one sentence. This is a big decision, so we need to think carefully. Okay? I saw a few people use thus and hence, but like I said, thus and hence are very formal words, and so they're not very common in day-to-day life. You might see it in a business email or an article or something, okay? But when speaking, people don't usually use the word thus or hence, okay? And then the second part, we need to think carefully. We need to think it out. Think it out means talk about it carefully and think clearly step by step what to do. Think it out is a really good phrase to know, okay? And I also saw we need to give careful consideration. That's not enough. If you say give careful consideration, we do give that to something. So you need the word to and then what we're giving consideration to. So we need to give careful consideration to this decision. But this is kind of formal speech and you're making it a little bit complicated, which is okay in some situations, okay? And then I use the word think. We need to think carefully. We need to think it out. I also saw a few people use consider. We need to consider carefully. But consider, you need an object. We need to consider this decision carefully, okay? And so I also saw think clearly. Think clearly means you're thinking with you're in the right mind. You're not making bad decisions. Think clearly is a little bit different than what we want here. We want to be thinking carefully, like thinking step by step. Thinking clearly means you're not having trouble with your thinking, okay? And then I also saw the phrase chew it over. This is actually one that I'm not familiar with. I haven't heard anyone use the phrase chew it over before. Chew it over is a phrase that means to think it out, discuss this, and figure out this situation. But I don't think I've heard anyone say chew it over before. So it's pretty uncommon to use. It's correct. It's in the dictionary, but it's not a common phrase that I've heard at least. Okay? So I would say use think carefully, think it out, or think it over. That would be okay too. Okay? Next up, 他投资失败，结果他必须要卖掉房子还债。Okay? So, this guy, he put all of his money in one thing. Oops, and boom, all of his money's gone. His investments failed. Consequently, he must sell his house to settle his debts. Oh my gosh. So here we have a formal, serious situation. So his investments failed. So his investments means the money he put into the market or into a company, and they failed. He lost his money. Okay? Failed here is the verb, so you can just use the word failed. You don't need the word was in front of it. I saw people say was failed. You can just say failed. Failed is a verb. His investments failed. Okay? And then I use the word consequently because this is focusing on the result. Consequently means we're telling you what the consequence is. Consequence, consequently. And that's telling you the result. And it's a serious formal situation about money, so we can use consequently. He must sell his house to settle his debts. Ooh, tough luck. So, settle his debts. So debt, D-E-B-T. Notice how I say it, debt. Now, there is no B sound. D-E-B-T, there's no B sound, and then the T is that kind of stop sound, debt. And so, if we add an S, it sounds like debts, debts. So, be careful, don't put a B in there. A lot of students will say debts, debts, and see, it's really hard to say. So, debts, debts. Okay? Settle his debts. So a debt means money you owe. And to settle something means you make it even. So you pay off your debts. So settle debts or pay off debts. Okay? So settle means you make everything equal, everything zero. You don't owe any money. And settle means get it to zero. Pay off is kind of the same thing, except pay off is focusing on he's giving away the money. So pay off his debts, okay? But pay off his debts. We use the word off because it makes the debts go off of his notebooks. We don't usually say pay his debts. We say pay off his debts, okay? So settle his debts, pay his debts. Sorry, settle his debts, pay off his debts. Okay? And he must sell his house. With the word must, we just use the word sell. You don't want sold or sold out or something. Just keep it simple. Keep it as sell his house. Okay? So, next up is Lesson 5, Conversation 4, Part 5. So this is where we go on our adventure to the Hotong cat village. Ooh, look at that. Cats are everywhere. Ooh. And then you're eating your tuna sandwich. And suddenly, boom, cats jump on you and boom, go crazy. You feel like you're the king of the cats. Oh my gosh. But you really like these cats and you feel comfortable in this space, in this place. So you say you feel right at home. Oh, I feel really good. This is the right place for me. So this story is a little bit crazy, right? But you can use a lot of these phrases anytime you go somewhere that you feel comfortable and you like it. Or maybe you have a friend who's being silly. Maybe you're out at a party and someone's acting crazy. You can talk to them and say, oh, come on, man. You're overdoing it, or you're taking things too far. Or maybe you love the party and you say, I feel at home. You feel really comfortable. So our story can be a little bit silly, but apply it to situations that you might be in. Maybe you're going to a new place or you go somewhere that is a new experience. And so you can use these phrases to describe that, okay? So our first sentence from our homework is, 因为他们很好客，我感觉真的像在家一样. Okay? And in English, I would say, because they are such good hosts, I really feel at home. Or you could say, because the hosts are really friendly, I feel right at home. Okay? Or you could say, I truly feel at home. That would be okay too. Now, this idea of 好客, the direct translation of this is the word hospitable. 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 And if you say it fast, hospitable. And if you try to say this word, I think it's tricky to say. How do you feel about the word hospitable? It's not easy to say, right? Hospitable, hospitable. And so, words like this, yes, you could use it, but in daily English, people don't really use the word hospitable because it's just kind of a tricky word to say. And so, I'm just going to use an easier word. We don't really use the word hospitable in day-to-day English. We would use words like, wow, they were good hosts. So focusing on they are the host and they are good at it. They are such good hosts. Okay? Now, hosts is also not super easy to say, but a little bit easier than hospitable. We should make a tongue twister out of that. The hospitable hosts. Oh, geez. So instead of saying they are hospitable, I would say they are such good hosts, or the hosts are really friendly, something like that. Now, here I did in present tense. Most of you use present tense. They are such good hosts. And that would mean you are at the place. Maybe you are at the bed and breakfast, or you're at the hotel, or at a party, and you're saying it right now. They are such good hosts. I feel at home now. Now, if you're talking about your experience before, you would use past tense. Because they were such good hosts, I really felt at home. So you can change the verbs, okay? Now, the second part, I really feel at home. You could also say, I truly feel at home. Now, this is a phrase that's usually these three words. Feel at home, okay? I really feel at home. I truly feel at home. There were several of you who use feel like. I feel like at home, or I feel like truly at home. Now, the phrase is just the three words. You don't need to add the word like. Feel at home, okay? And so it's a standard way of saying it. Oh, I feel at home. And the grammar sounds funny, right? It sounds like it's wrong. Like there should be the word like in there. I feel like I am at home. But we squish it all together. Feel like I am at home becomes feel at home. Okay? So you don't need the word like in there. Next up is 你玩笑开太过火了，所以大家都不想理你了。So I would say this as you take jokes too far. So nobody wants to talk to you anymore. So you're telling your friend, oh, this is why no one talks to you. You take jokes too far. So nobody wants to talk to you anymore. So I use the present tense. When do we use the present tense? If we're talking about a habit. I think you do this all the time. Maybe every week you play a joke and it's too much. So you take jokes too far, meaning it happens again and again. So nobody wants to talk to you anymore. Here, wants is in present simple, describing that it's the current status. It's the truth about what's going on. Nobody wants to talk to you anymore. That's just the true thing that's going on right now. Okay? You could also use this in past tense, but that would mean about one joke. You took that joke too far one time in the past. So nobody wants to talk to you anymore. So after that one joke, now nobody wants to talk to you. Okay? So I use you took the joke too far, or you take jokes too far. You could also use you overdid it. Maybe they told a joke and it's like, oh, dude, you overdid it. Overdid it means it's too much. Maybe you told a joke that hurt people's feelings, or maybe you broke something because you're being too crazy. Okay? And then the second part, I said, so nobody wants to talk to you anymore. So 不想理你了. In English, we would keep it simple and say nobody wants to talk to you anymore. So from then going forward, nobody wants to talk to you. Okay? I also saw someone say everyone doesn't want to talk to you. Now, if it's everyone doesn't, we would change that around and make it nobody does. So everyone doesn't, just everyone doesn't want to, just say nobody wants to. Okay? We can simplify it. And then I also saw some people use the word ignore. Everyone ignores you now. That would be okay, but the meaning is a little bit more intense. That means they don't look at him, don't listen, don't pay attention to him. They ignore you. Okay? I also saw cross you out. I understand what you mean. Like maybe you have a list of people and you cross out their name, make them disappear, make them go away. But we wouldn't usually use this in this situation. So to cross someone out usually means if they're on the list for a party, like you have a list of people and John says he's not going to come to the party. It's like, okay, so we can cross John out, usually from a list of names, okay? So it doesn't really fit here, but I understand what you're trying to say. It would be best to say nobody wants to talk to you anymore. Okay. Then last but not least, our friend Bob, really lucky guy. So 因为中了乐透 Bob 现在过着富豪的生活. Ooh, pretty good, right? Because he won the lottery, Bob is living the life of a millionaire now. Ooh, pretty good. Or Bob is living the life of a rich man now. a little bit simpler, and that's okay. And then using a phrase we learned before a while back, Bob is living like a king now. Woohoo, pretty nice. Okay. Now, the first part, I think everybody got real, no problem. Because he won the lottery. This is the reason. This is why it happened. Bob is living the life of a millionaire now. Okay? And you could say it many different ways, but we use the phrase living the life of something. So he's acting that and living that kind of lifestyle, living the life of a millionaire. So that's his style. That's what's happening. Okay? I also saw someone use leading a rich life. Now, actually, a rich life, it sounds a little bit different. Rich life sounds more of your life is full of interesting experiences. If we say rich life, it means your life is great and has many cool, interesting experiences. It doesn't mean about money all the time. So leading a rich life doesn't always mean he actually has a lot of money. Leading a rich life could mean you have lots of great experiences. So it would be better to say something like living a life of a millionaire now, living like a king, living the life of a rich man. Now, if Bob won the lottery in America, you would say living the life of a millionaire now. Because in America, it's very, 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 very hard to be a millionaire. You got to be pretty rich. In Taiwan, being a millionaire is really good, but it's less difficult than in America. So maybe in Taiwan, you might say Bob is living the life of a billionaire now. So like the boss of Apple or the boss of Google. Oh my gosh, super rich guys. Okay? So good old Bob, maybe he can change his lifestyle. He doesn't have to sell burritos at the night market. He doesn't have to walk around the bookstore looking for girlfriends. He can drive a Ferrari down the street because he won the lotto. So in all of these lessons, we learned lots of different things about cause and effect, right? Because, since, and as are all pretty similar, because we show the cause and effect, since and as also show cause and effect, and then emphasize one over the other. And then we learned that we can use so to show the effect. This happened, so something else happened. And we learned a bunch of other phrases that maybe we're not going to use all the time, day-to-day life, but you'll hear it, you'll see them in reading and listening and watching TV, and they're really good tools to know. So many of these cause and effect things, there's so many different ways to use these, and each one is useful in its own different way. So get out there and keep on practicing. So we're going to wrap up our stream about here. Hopefully everyone's doing well and no big questions. If you have any questions, please let me know. I would like to help you guys. I mean, I'm here for you. And so any questions you have, I will answer it as soon as I can. And I'll stick around for a few more minutes. If you would like to chat with me one-on-one, I'll write a message. Send a message to Kyle Moai. So I'll hang out for a few more minutes. If anyone's free, would like to chat, send me a message. If not, thank you for joining me. Have a good night, and I'll see you next week. Maybe I should have some like goodbye music, and so it's like doo 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 doo, bye bye.